We'll call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to the April 4th, 2023 City of Windom Council meeting. Any additions to the agenda? Okay, it'll stand approved as is. And the consent agenda includes this evening the minutes from the following: the council minutes of March 21st, Utility Commission March 29th, license application, temporary liquor license for the Lions Club on May 6th, and exempt gambling permit BARC for May 16th. Also included are the regular bills. Council action or questions?
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Motion Jim, second Scott. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Department heads. Folks are going to wait for their turn. I guess we'll go right into the public hearing. This is for the proposed vacation of utility easements, Lot 5, Block 2 of Windom Industrial Park subdivision. Okay, are you taking that one, Steve? Thank you.
Well, yep, just a brief explanation. This is a lot that Mr. Queering owns along the industrial park or the commercial park in the Carl Schneider Business Park. It's where one of those buildings had burnt down a couple of years ago. That parcel is being sold. There's a map on your screen showing that there was a easement for ingress egress because there were two lots here, and tract A and tract B, and then utility easement around it. You can also see that there is also a new utility easement that runs around on the back side of that 50-foot utility easement along the back side of that tract. City Utilities does not need the easement, utility ingress or egress easement between tracts A and tracts B, and are recommending that the vacation request of the ingress egress easement and the water, sewer, and utility easement be approved.
Thank you, Steve. Were there any comments by mail or other notification?
There were not.
Thank you. And we'll open the public hearing, noting that there were no comments for or against this vacation of utility easement. We've heard the explanation briefly at last month's meeting, again here this evening. Does the council have any questions? Steve will be happy to answer them. Okay. Any questions, comments from the public? It's open for public comment on this time. Any members from the public may comment. Seeing none, seeing nobody actively getting up, we will close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed. I think everything in it is in order here. Properly noted, properly had the hearing. Does the council wish to take action on the proposed vacation of utility easements?
I would introduce a resolution approving the vacation of the public easement.
I'll second that. Introduced by Marv. I'll take Dennis's second. Okay, any further discussion? Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Quaid.
Yes.
Esplin.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Grunig.
Yes.
Benson.
Yes.
Resolution carries unanimously. Next on the agenda is a resolution accepting a donation from Windom United Services to the fire department for an undisclosed or designated amount of $20, I believe, to be used as deemed appropriate by the Windom Fire Department. Someone care to introduce that resolution, please?
I would
introduce the resolution accepting the donation from the Windom United Service for the Windom Fire Department.
I'll second it.
Resolution introduced by Jenny, seconded by Scott. Any final discussion? Roll call, please.
Esplin,
Yes.
Benson,
Yes.
Quaid,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Grunig.
Yes.
And that also carries unanimously. In your packet, we had a renewable energy credit management and administration contact with WAPA. Steve, will you be doing that explanation? I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but Steve?
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So, City of Windom has had a long-standing contract with WAPA, which is the Western Area Power Administration. It's hydropower that we get out from the Missouri River Basin. It's a very good contract for us, and we've got another few decades on our current agreement. So with that, because it's a hydropower, it's a renewable resource, there are what they call renewable energy credits that come with that kind of a power. Up until very, very recently, these RECs, they're called, renewable energy credits, we could not use them in Minnesota because the state did not recognize large hydro as producing RECs. However, with the recent change in state statute, pushing that 100% green by 2040 mandate that they've got, they have changed the law to recognize renewable energy credits being generated from large hydro. And so now these RECs can be counted and used in our system. Windom is a member of the Central Municipal Power Agency and Services. Compass is it's kind of like a co-op group. They do the management of the RECs for us, and that's through a nationwide or a regional system called MRETs. But Compass does that for us. There's no charge for it. It's part of our membership and dues structure that we have with Compass. The agreement that you have in front of you is WAPA and City of Windom entering into an agreement to move management and administration of these RECs over to Compass to administer through that MRET system. So that's what this is in here. It does, like I mentioned, does not cost us anything. In the long run, we're hoping that some of these RECs have some more value as the need for renewable energy credits may increase over time for people offsetting non-renewables. They do have, there's an annual amount that we do have to have now to make sure we're within our state guidelines. And so we are meeting those with these additional ones that will just kind of bolster our position and put us in a good spot for the future.
Okay. Any questions? Mark?
One thing that's interesting is originally they wouldn't even count hydro as renewable because it already existed. And they were trying to create new renewable energy. So now with the 100% by 2040, they almost are required to include it. So that's great.
Absolutely, and this has been recommended for approval, I believe, by the Utility Commission. So it has went through that. I have received the notification on the mayor's email to sign the document. I have not done that yet, as it needs to be approved by council first. So with your approval, we should award, I think this is not in a resolution form, it's agreement, a motion to approve the agreement for the Renewable Energy Credit Management Administration contract with WAPA.
I would make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Marv, second by Jim to approve the agreement as presented and as discussed. Any final comments or questions?
Just to note, it was reviewed by general legal counsel, so.
Thank you for that. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I put a note down here. I wanted to ask Steve, do you know the president of Compass?
I do.
Who is that, Steve?
Currently, it's myself. I just was
Okay.
just elected to
Well,
that
congratulations, that's why I asked the question.
spot. I assume so.
I think that's a good note. I was gonna save it for later, but it fits right in, Steve.
Yep, thank you.
Yep, thank you. You've did a good job explaining the process. Thank you. Legal services agreement with Jackson County Attorney's Office. You've seen the correspondence in your packet. Steve will also address this one of what they have done, I guess briefly for the public knowledge, and make some comments, Steve.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Just for a little bit of history, the city had entered into a contract for prosecution services at some of our non-felony cases. We entered into that contract with Cottonwood County at the end of 2019, and so they were doing our prosecution, and we're paying them a stipend to do that. This year in January, we were provided a notice by the Cottonwood County attorney, Nick Anderson, that they would no longer be doing that prosecution for us. And so there was a 90-day termination clause in that contract. And so Chief Peterson and I met with the city attorney and started talking about what our options might be. There's some communities that have, like City of Redwood Falls actually has a city attorney on staff that's all they do is city attorney work. That's not kind of how our arrangement is. We contract out for those services. There's other communities that have the county do it, contract just like we were doing with Cottonwood County. And then there are other cities that engage private firms to do their prosecution. And so we kind of looked at some of those options and saw what those might be. We did see that there was some interest from Jackson County in providing our prosecution services. Their county attorney is Christy Myron, who was a former assistant city attorney and former assistant Cottonwood County attorney. So she knew our staff and we knew her. We felt pretty comfortable with her doing that kind of work for us, and contracting with another governmental entity made some sense for us. And so we're recommending that we enter into the same type of prosecution services with Jackson County that we're exiting with Cottonwood County.
Questions? Marv?
Just a thought. Will there be efficiency on that type, where you have shared service, where the offender gets in front of the judge in a timely manner?
Yeah, we don't have a lot of concern about that. A lot of the hearings and things like that are done online. They're done over Zoom and that kind of thing. So we don't see that being an issue with this.
My understanding is that Chief Peterson and Ron Trammell has been part of that discussion, Steve, and it's all three of your group's recommendations. So, any more questions from the council? Jenny.
So can I just clarify, I mean, I guess in the years I've been here, I don't know that I ever clarified or understood. Ron Trammell, our city attorney, represents the city council and city business. So is that just a pay by hour or a contract for, like, how is that different than how a city attorney that prosecutes the crimes, how that works out?
Sure.
Because that was out of his office before.
Formerly, when Ms. Myron worked for them, they did our prosecution through the city attorney office. And then when she left, the city attorney, Ron Trammell, had no interest in doing the prosecution side of it. And that's part of the reason we look for options, and Cottonwood County is one of our options. So Ron, we pay him an hourly basis for other things that come up. So if one of the departments has like this WAPA contract, we would send it to him, he would review it, and then at the end of every month, we get a bill. And then those bills are broken up by departments and are paid kind of a pay-as-you-go type of thing. Our contract for prosecution services with Cottonwood County and with Jackson County will be a monthly lump sum over the course of time, because just, crime comes and goes, and which ones go to court or don't go to court, there's, as you well know, there's a lot of variation. And so we're continuing the same arrangement we had with Cottonwood County, and essentially the same cost, a little bit more, but there was an inflationary cost coming with the Cottonwood County one as well. What we've got with Jackson, we locked in for 23 and all of 24. at the same cost. So from a standpoint that way, it's pretty cost effective, so.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that for the public, because I'd heard some comments about, okay, well, we have a city attorney, and, they thought, in conversation, hearing things on city council, Ron Trammell is our city attorney, so, why are we contracting out? So I just want to make sure people understand that he does, some of the matters regarding the city and city council and department heads, but really the prosecution services. And like you said, Christy Myron, worked with that out of his office. When she left that office, she took that position, kind of went with her then. So really, she's very familiar with the city attorney work, so I would be comfortable with agreeing with having that go down to Jackson, as that's where she's at.
Any other questions? Council wish to take action? Agreeing with the recommendation?
I would second.
The motion was from Dennis to approve the Jackson County Attorney's Office handling the legal services agreement for criminal charges, and seconded by Marv. Any final discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. And that carries unanimously. Thank you. Next, we have Personnel Committee recommendations. I'd like to change the order up just a little bit and put the full-time office administrative assistant first. And there was discussion that was had by the Personnel Committee, or most of the committee. So I'll let, do you have any comments? You lead the group, Marv?
Who wants to start? But I guess what we heard for the most part is there's some difficulties in working in the city office, learning the system and doing it part-time. There's a lot of training involved, and what has happened now is that the training takes place and the employee works for a short time and then goes on their way looking for a full-time job. And so evidently that's happened a couple times now. I think sometimes we get caught up in thinking that efficiency is when you eliminate a full-time job to a part-time job. But maybe that's not necessarily the case. I think that based on what we've heard, we probably need to move that position back to full-time.
Thank you, Marv. Jenny, you're also on that committee. Did you want to make any comments before I have Cheryl make some follow-ups?
Sure. Yeah, back when we advertised this before for part-time, I was pushing for full-time. I just think it's easier to get a qualified candidate when you're offering a full-time job. A lot of people are looking for full-time with benefits. To have a qualified candidate that has some kind of financial knowledge or background. There's not too many out there that are looking for part-time work, so I think we're going to have a better pool to draw from for hopefully a full-time. Plus, I also think that with the staff that's in City Hall right now, I think sometimes it's been a struggle for them to get their vacation and time off, just because they're good, dedicated workers there, and they don't want to take time off and feel like they're putting their job onto their coworkers. But then that's running into being short-staffed or not having their vacation time taken. So I think, having another full-time staff in there so then people can take their vacation time, or if they're sick, they don't have to feel like they have to come in even when they're sick to, make sure the job gets done. So I think it'll be easier and all around better for the staff. Plus, I just think with Lisa Vollen's position being part-time electric and part-time City Hall, even though she's here at City Hall, part of her job is really the electric. And so we can't expect her to be just interrupting her electric job that she's trying to do by taking care of City Hall things during that time of the day, that she would do that. So I think it makes sense to just have that full-time person to be there for it all.
And Jenny, I will admit, for your benefit, is that I was against that To start with, I probably was more conservative and kind of followed Marv's thinking, and maybe that has switched. And so Cheryl, you now have the floor, so you can make comments to affirm that. And one question I have, could you also explain the percentage of time a little clearer than in the packet?
Okay.
Thank you.
The electric department pays for Lisa Vollen at 50%, and she's only been spending 2 mornings down there a week. So Jason would like her to spend all 5 days in the morning down there to pay for his share. We thought at first that she would be able to do some of her work in City Hall, but now that she is working more with purchasing and inventory and kind of trying to take that on, she needs to be there and understand those items that she's purchasing and also be able to communicate on the phone with vendors. She also needs to work with the linemen on occasion, understanding what they're trying to give her for information to get it in and out of inventory correctly. So those things, it's a struggle for her to do in City Hall, and that's one reason why she needs to be down there. Also to talk about how those positions in customer service are allocated out. Their position is allocated to electric, water, sewer 20%, telecom 30%, and then liquor store is a smaller percentage, 2.5%, and then 7.5% is the office to do other City Hall type work. So a majority of that is all paid by enterprise type funds, and the 7.5% is paid by taxpayers.
Okay, and you sent out information previously requesting this, and the committee took action. Does the recommendation stand for the committee, and how does the council wish to act?
Well, I would make the motion to approve increasing the part-time administrative assistant to a full-time.
I'm going to second that.
Motion made by Jenny and seconded by Marv. Any further discussion? Once again, I think that it's proved itself over time. So thank you for putting up with that. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, don't go away. City office summer hours. And I'd like to be very clear for the public what's, intended here. So could you go over the proposal, please?
Currently, we're open from 8 to 5 with an hour lunch break for employees. In the union contract, there was a request to do flexible hours. The staff had their own interpretation of what that should be, and compared to the management side of it. Staff was looking at starting at 7:30 in the morning with a half-hour lunch and being done at 4. We tried to do that the last couple of years with one of our employees being a little bit more flexible on working till 5. It was a difficult situation because we have really only one employee working from 4 to 5 with either Steve or myself as the second employee in City Hall. So I'm requesting that we shorten the City Hall hours, have being open that half hour earlier at 7:30 for anyone before they go to work, and then closing at 4, which is an hour earlier than we currently are open. If we could try that at least for a year and see how it affects the community, that's what we're requesting. What was that? Oh, and it's just summer hours, which starts May 1st and goes through Labor Day. Yes.
Marv?
I think the personnel's recommendation was to give Cheryl's idea a try for 1 year and to see if it works, and as long as it don't generate overtime. So the thought was to give it a try.
The one question, that I have is you mentioned that there was some verbiage in the union contract. Will that be part of any new union negotiations? Of course. Okay.
I would imagine both sides will want to talk about it extensively.
Okay. Very good. Not one way or another on it. I just wanted to make sure that that's why the 1 year term for this calendar year is in there. Okay. Okay. Any other comments? I do have concern with closing at 4, but I think this is probably the time to try it out. So we'll see how it goes. And so with that, we're ready for a motion if the council so wishes.
I'd make the motion to approve the city office summer hours.
I'll second it.
Motion by Marv, second by Scott. Any further discussion? Jim?
When will we take this up again? Because you're going to be hearing about it.
Well, you're right. I think we will be hearing about it. I think that to what extent we won't know until we try it, I think is what's going to happen. We'll see what this summer goes like. And then, of course, like we said, union negotiations. So that will be later this year. And, there'll be some guidance that at that time that council can discuss on moving forward or not moving forward with anything of that nature. So all the union contracts will be brought back to the city council. So that will be the time to listen to those concerns that the public may have. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay, and we'll get that advertised fairly soon then after the council makes this decision, which I'm assuming they are. So let's vote on it so we know, and then I can talk. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Do you intend to be posting this and probably put something in the paper? What's your plan on that?
Yes, we'll put something in the paper right away.
Whatever we need to do. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Very
if you
good.
prefer that we also put it on the radio, we can sure do that.
I think we probably should.
Okay,
Okay.
How about, could you put it on the door, one of the doors?
sure.
Okay, very good. Anything else for Cheryl while she's here? Keep up the good work.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you. New business. New business that I have is you don't have to put this down, but the Twins have a 4-0 record yet.
That's council comments.
That's, okay, move it down to that. Okay. It is new business, though. Yeah, okay. Old business. I'm glad to see these two items on here. The 2023 Arena Horse Show and Events Update. Did the council have an opportunity to look at the information provided by Tim that was in with the number of events that he has scheduled already for this year? Tim, do you want to come up? I've got a couple questions for you. Or comments. First thing that I had is I want to thank you for putting this together, okay? We had the discussion, and I asked the question last meeting, you know, about did the group get together to do this, or, you know, how are we coming? Jenny wasn't here, so I talked about you and asked about this. And tonight we have it before us. We can see what the handout is. You worked with a group of people on the handout, I understand. And also you put together this list. And did you have a lot of help with this, Tim? Or how did this seems like quite a bit that happened since we had that horse show meeting?
Yeah, so after we had the meeting, the special meeting with the decision to move forward with continuing indoor shows, we kind of collaborated between user groups, Park and Rec Commission. You know, following that meeting, I did meet with a few individuals within the user groups down at my office at the arena, kind of just started talking about how this process was going to work. Since then, they have been networking within different user groups who have then in return reached out to me. And that's where we started booking a few different events through that networking system with user groups. Between that and with the Park and Rec Commission, with Jenny Quaid and Pamela Hogan, we're the orchestrators of putting the information that we currently have as far as rates for holding events, clinics, different things like that down at the arena. They had put together the brochure, which was to be used for getting that information out to other user groups. We'll be posting it on social media platforms. I will be taking this up to the Minnesota Horse Expo at the end of April to just get the information and the word out up at that event. So yeah, it was just a kind of a collaboration between different individuals that we kind of put this together. The goal is I have 3 weekend shows which generate the most revenue. Those are getting not only the rent but the stall money, which generates more revenue for a weekend show when we're booking 40, 50, 60, 70 stalls for that event. That's going to bring in the most money. When we have some of these other ones, which I indicated would be a one-day event, no stall rent, that would just be the $375 building rent fee. Where if we get stall rentals, upwards of 40 plus more stalls for horse and tack rental, that produces the $2,000-$3,000 weekends. So the goal is to try to hopefully book more of those type of events.
I personally think that's a great start. And I agree. I think more weekend stuff would be great. I think it's heading in the right direction. I once again thank you for your work that you've done, along with your other colleagues that have helped. Council comments?
Did you get a group of the horse people that was kind of here during the one meeting, make a committee of them people so they got a little bit of input of what's going on with some of this shows and stuff like that?
Yeah, so there were 2 individuals who are kind of maybe their spokesman or the people that they wanted to get together with myself and figure out a plan, how we're going to do this, how it's going to work, who's going to work on booking, and so we're just kind of updating everybody as to what we have for shows. So that's why we wanted to get this put together so we can get this posted. It'll be on the City of Windom calendar so people can see that. So there wasn't, I guess, maybe a committee that was formed for that, but just the individuals and the user groups that can network within other user groups to get that word out.
And Tim, you're the one who did the bookings then? I mean, it's going through you as I'm reading the posters and whatnot. You're taking care of that part. You're doing the bookings. You're making the contacts to the people that are recommended, that sort of thing.
Yeah, correct. In our meeting, we just felt it would be easier for that to channel and funnel through me so I can explain the contracts, explain the rates, the different options versus having other individuals trying to have that communication. Obviously, they can give them the information, but after that, the final booking would be done through me, where I can get them the information, the contracts, how it all works. So we felt it best, instead of them trying to book a show and then bringing that back to me, just in case there was something else that came up. We didn't want to have any interference with scheduling.
No, I think that sounds good, and you have had time to take care of this to date, I mean, to keep
Yep.
up with it?
Yep, absolutely. So we've been able to be in contact with the user groups, already getting contracts out, and those are coming back in as well. So everything at this point is moving along just fine. Yep.
Mark?
I think this is great, Tim, and it lets everybody know that the arena is open for business this summer, and I think that people seeing this, the next year is going to be just bigger and better. So thank you a lot, Tim.
You bet. Okay. Council good? A good report. Thank you, Tim. Okay, gotta get out my other cheat sheet here. We're gonna talk about the urban deer hunt.
Mr. Mayor, I would
Marv.
just, I've been kind of trying to keep an individual informed on what's going on with the deer hunting, and he shows up here tonight. So Dennis Korberg, the president of the Minnesota Deer Hunters, is in our midst.
I'm not gonna make that clarification. Our past president of Deer Hunters Association, he corrected me the other morning too when I talked to him. So, sorry, Dennis, but you're well known for your position in the Deer Hunters. So I hope you enjoy our discussion tonight, and we also look forward, if Dennis wants to help us out with some of these comments, to have communication with Steve and go from there. So Steve has some questions here that were, it was part of the packet, and Steve would like some, I guess, clarifications and feelings of the council. I don't know if you need that in a motion form or consensus, I think, maybe, but if we have a big discussion on something, we may have to have a vote if it's split. So did you want to go through each one? Yep.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. There were a couple of questions that came up at the last discussion, last council meeting as well, and I did reach out to DNR, so I'll just go through maybe some of those quick, and then where I need some input, I'll highlight those. But we had talked about whether the hunt could include private properties. I think that was your question, Mayor. I did speak with DNR. They said, yes, you can have private properties. Their advice this time, you're just kind of starting one to maybe concentrate just on public properties, maybe this first year for sure. So that's certainly up to us, but that's their suggestion. As far as there was a question on the age of the archers that would participate. Blue Earth, in their paperwork, they had age 18. The DNR doesn't have a minimum age for participation. That's up to the individual community and what they want to do. DNR did say they do strongly encourage that proficiency test. So just as long as the archer can pass that test, they were open on whatever age. So that's something we can address down the line, but it was a question and I wanted to get an answer back to that. The dates for the hunt, the dates are for the season next year, or later this year, is September 16th through December 31st. That's the full season. And we hadn't talked about what dates we were going to kind of look at here. DNR said they would kind of prefer that it's the whole season. One, it gives people more time, but two, then hunters don't have to remember, well, I can hunt here on these dates or here on those dates. It's all kind of one. This ties into one of my points later, and I'll catch that one as we come back. And then about special insurance, I mean, it's been urban deer hunts. Many cities in Minnesota do it. we are covered, but I'm double checking with the league to make sure everything is, we've got everything in place that we need, and there's nothing else that we need to address when we set up our program. So just let you know we're working on that. So that's really where I'm coming to the last question here. It included Mayflower Park. And when we included that as part of our urban deer hunt area, if we go that September through December timeframe, there's possibly, some potential conflicts with them users at the disc golf course. Maybe in that, if we have a nice fall or a late summer, there could be some conflict there. Now, we don't have to close the park, but that was one thing that we talked about. It's kind of an isolated area, not a lot of heavy usage in that park, so maybe it would be beneficial to close it during the hunt. If we do that, then we may or may not want to consider what the length of time that we're going to use that park for the hunt. So those two things kind of tie together, and that's what I wanted to get some guidance on you folks. In the application I've submitted to the DNR, they do ask for what the dates are. So that application is due towards the end of this month. So I do need a little guidance from you this evening on the dates that you're thinking. And just as a general reminder, we had Mayflower Park, a chunk of the former landfill, and then as a possible Ringel Park, which is the well field across from the high school on River Road there. I've got that included in the application as a possibility. At the last meeting, we discussed once the snow melts and the floodwater recedes, the police chief and I were going to walk out there and see if there's some areas there that would be, eligible to, fall into the program. So, again, we can include that, as we develop our program. But those are the three spots that we talked about this year and kind of the status of each one of those. So, so kind of my question for you just tonight for the application is, do we, what dates do you want? And then will that affect, I don't have to put in the DNR application that we're closing, possibly Mayflower Park or not. We can decide that. But if there's a date that are going to be shorter or the same as the season, that I kind of need to know so I could submit that in the application. So I'll answer any other questions you have at this time.
What I would like to do is I would like to go through each question because I have comments on them, and I'd like the opportunity for the council to be able to comment. The first question is, could the hunt include private properties? As Steve said, other cities have done this. I understand getting started that, this may be the easiest way to start the process. And I'm open to talking with private people, but I think that it maybe does merit going through the first year, as recommended, I guess, from the DNR also.
And we have a fairly short time frame to get that
Understand.
lined up between now and next week.
Understand.
So that's part of it.
Yep.
So.
And because, there's property line things you have to respect and, that sort of thing. And I've had a couple comments, on the property stuff. What happens if a deer is shot and it runs, into somebody else's property. There's trespass laws as well. I would think they are implied in town as well. And I'm getting the nod, and when they write out the rules and regs of this, hunters are gonna have to know those things.
Right, and that's
Right.
part of our program.
Of
as
the
we form it.
program as you form it. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Everybody agree with staying away from private properties for the first year? Okay, consensus.
Just one I think, and it kind of ties in, to the location, but the private property, I feel like most of the deer are River Road out to the golf course, that area, and we're not really covering that area, this first year, and I understand not opening up to private property the first year, just doing this to get our feet wet and understand things, but I think then really moving forward, I think we need to look at private property, we need to look at, because that's the area of town where I notice them the most. And so, to address that side of town, I think it's pretty much a lot of the property along the river, which would be, their backyards to the river, which to me would be a safer area to hunt. You're not shooting into any, other residences. You're going from a house backyard towards the river. So just in the future, I would like that to be considered, but I understand starting off small.
I think in the future too that, I think people would probably contact the city and say they would like to have somebody come hunt on their property just to eliminate or reduce the deer.
I think one comment, I don't know where it fits in here, but we talked about, the limits, and I don't know if that has to be decided right away, or does it? Because I have a comment on that I want to share.
Yep. On the application form for DNR, we do have to select what we're going to do.
Okay.
At the last meeting, we had talked possibly about doing the earn a buck, where you get 2 antlerless and then 1 earn a buck. In conversation with DNR and with the Minnesota Deer Hunters representative that's here, the suggestion is to concentrate on doe only. And so that would be another question for you, but, for you, it's a judgment call on, are we trying to, harvest as many as we can, or, to make a dent in population, and that's, obviously on the does, but, so that's something else that we'll have to talk about this evening.
Well, and that's why I'm bringing that up now. It's not really described in here, but I think we're doing this as a conservation tool to lower the numbers. The way to lower the numbers are shooting the doe, right? I mean, and I wouldn't care if it's more than 3. I think, and one thing I want to reiterate, and I hope Dennis is listening to this. I'm hoping Dennis is listening to this, is if we went with the doe only, a lot of people do not want 3 deer. And I think that there is a good program, and I think it's a $100 donation, and I don't know where it goes, but you pay for the butchering and donate it to a local food group, okay, after it's processed. And maybe we could get more information out there, that, this might be a worthy cause or something that we can do for somebody who needs some help during the winter months. Venison is good, nutritious, a lot of protein. So I think that's something that, you should consider. With that, if we can take more does, I am very supportive of that. I would not, my opinion, I don't think it's for the buck population. That's, but I know there will be people that want to shoot a buck, and that's how they earn it. But then get it up to 4 doe, and you can have a buck. I would be happy, but I think Steve says he needs an answer on that. Okay?
Some guidance.
Guidance. And so I do not know the range of what other communities have done. I hear 3 deer is probably pretty typical. Do I have any nods from anywhere?
Yeah, as I said, I left that open-ended question to DNR and to, the deer hunter gentleman, and the consensus with both of them was do 2 antlerless, so
2 antlerless?
that was their suggestion.
Okay.
If you want
Can-
it, that's their suggestion.
And if someone goes out and shoots 2 deer in one evening, which I think can happen sometimes, and that happens, are we going to allow then someone else to take that stand? It shouldn't be just done for the year, in my opinion, if we're doing a conservation program to limit the amount of deer. So can it be, if that stand has fulfilled its need for the 2 deer for a person, can that be refilled by a next eligible?
I think some of this stuff we can ferret out as we set the program up. We don't need an answer to that one this evening.
Well, okay, but I want,
So, right.
so I
that-
think
that-
we're
that we
looking
can-
in that 2 to 3 range.
That's
Is that fair enough? And does the council agree with the antlerless or not? That's my question, and I think that's a significant one to who you will get out there.
How many people are we gonna introduce into the program?
That's something else we're gonna have to work through. I did ask our deer hunter representative there for that kind of input. When we get to start designing the program, we wanna be able to measure out, what's the distance you need between stands, things like that. But initially, we were thinking we'd probably be in that 15 to 20, depending on that well site property. So, we may be able to do more if we can turn over a site or a stand, as you're saying, or a spot. Right, but those are things we can kind of talk about and work out in our program. We don't need that for the DNR app. We just need number of antlerless, and then we can work out the other details.
Okay, is consensus 2 to 3 does?
I need a number.
Oh, you want the number?
It's a drop-down menu. You pick one or the other.
Well,
I would
Okay.
say 3 myself.
Yeah, imagine the DNR has a number, don't they?
what was that?
Imagine the DNR has a maximum number. Is it 2 or 3?
Their form is a drop-down form that has several options: earn a buck, 2 antlerless, 1 antlerless, 3 antlerless
Oh,
type of
okay.
thing. And then there are bonus areas in the Twin Cities that you can get additional tags after that. There's a pretty large array of options there, but as our DNR person has suggested, and our current past president of the Deer Hunting Association has, that 2 to 3 is probably a pretty reasonable number to ask for.
I would think just the first time through this run that we shouldn't confuse it too much and just try to keep it as simple as possible, following the current deer hunting regulations. And I'd like to see a lot of those deer go away myself, but I don't want to confuse the hunters.
Right, and Steve's sitting here elbowing me with what number?
I just need a number.
Jenny,
Okay, I just want to clarify. So if you get a regular deer hunting permit to take deer, but this is something additional. So your regular season, if you can get a doe and a buck on your regular, that's separate. If you get this special, so on the regular season, I could get a doe and a buck, and then on this special thing, if I got drawn for that, I can get an additional 2 does?
you could only get 1 tag in the regular season in our area.
Okay. So whatever you have during the regular hunting season
one.
does not count against you
No.
if you get one in this special?
This is a special.
Okay, got it. I just don't want it
Yep.
to be that if
No,
they, you know,
and
got
that's the
something.
thing too, is people do have opportunity, quite a bit of opportunity around the area where they can go out and hunt. I mean, with slug season and the archery season, there's opportunity. So we need to give a number. I've heard a 3 and a 3. Are there a couple 2s? Are we gonna vote?
3 to 2.
Yeah, well, is it? Yes, 3 or 2.
Okay.
I think you're gonna have a lot of applicants. If there can be some leniency on if 2 deer are shot to fill that spot, I am great with 2. If it's that way.
And that's for us to design. So.
Yep. Now I'm taking away the guys with 3. After the discussion, is 2 okay?
Yeah, 2 just to get it started, I guess. We got to start somewhere. And if 2 is
Okay.
what we'd be more than happy to take 2 than none.
Yep. Okay. You okay, Jim?
That's fine. How are they gonna apply for their license? Is that gonna be through Steve?
Yeah.
Or is that gonna be through?
We're new to this
And-
stuff, guys.
Yeah, so
And
essentially what'll happen if the DNR approves us to have a hunt, what we'll do is we'll have an application period where we will collect, hunters' names that are interested. We'll set up a proficiency test with them, And then by then we'll have determined how many spots that we have available. And if we have the right, if we have more spots than hunters, then, that's one thing. Or if we get into a spot where we have many more interested parties than we have spots, we can talk about the mayor's, rotation of stands if you've filled out your tags to reuse that spot. Or, one of the other things we can do is pull names by lottery, or you could give a preference to residents of the community versus out-of-town folks that may apply for the tag. So there's a lot of ability to do that. But if your name is drawn and you're selected, the DNR gives the city the tags, and then we would be able to give those to that hunter. So
Now, Steve, would there be a fee for this special hunt?
what we're thinking about is $20 for hunter. Yeah, DNR said you can charge what you want. They encourage if you charge a fee that it be low because they want participation. But we also have time set up with our deer coordinator, which is one of our officers, and so they'll have to manage the proficiency test and things like that. So we need to cover a little bit of our costs, but the number I plugged in was $20. Just let's get it started and get it going. So.
And I think you have to have a current bow license for the season to participate in this. Yeah. And people that are gonna wanna go after bucks, they can go outside the city limits and, like they always have, and go after the bucks,
I hear that a lot of them will probably be on the other side of the river, so if you got property over there. Right. So, okay, everybody okay with that?
Just another quick question, like on the disposable of the part of the deer that you don't use, let's put it that way.
Yep.
Are they gonna be forced to take it with them, or are they gonna leave it where they lay?
Those will be things that we'll work out in our program and bring back to you to finally approve those rules, but there are several options there too, so.
Oh, good question. We talked about that too, so, yep. Okay, so we're at 2.
Okay.
Okay. Minimum age of archery
We don't need to
hunters.
decide that. That can be part of our program rules. I don't need that for the application, but I need the dates for the application. Hunt dates.
That is not in here. Doesn't say dates. Well, you already skipped over the age of archery hunters, and I wanted to discuss that
You can, but that's up to us.
Okay.
You can discuss it
at some other time.
at any point, right?
No, I'm just gonna put in a comment for safety, and I'm not saying that under 18 are not proficient. And as Steve noted earlier, they would have to go through a proficiency test as well. Just for the council to think about is, and I know it's not optimum for deer hunters to go in pairs, but I think in a adult supervision with not really minors, but younger students should have an adult with them for this. So that's something I think the chief and Steve, they can discuss that or with the DNR or whatever and come back with something on that. So, okay. Dates for the urban deer hunt.
Full season.
I would second that.
Is full season?
I heard second, so.
No,
I mean, I
He didn't
agree.
make a
I
motion.
agree.
he was a
Just
second
agreed.
agreement.
No, the only thing is, like you said, if Mayflower Park, if we're looking at the park, and then if you're looking at the one across from the school in that area, if that can be approved or, just, I don't know, kind of looking at the dates, it's like, do you want to back it up just a little bit? Just because of if you're closing off, that area. If you're closing off the park, do you want to close the park off yet in mid-September when people still might want to be using the park? Or do you want to
And-
back it off till it's a little cooler when people aren't going to be frisbee golfing or, fishing?
Maybe we can ask John back there, are they still disc golfing? John? Are they still using that disc golf quite a bit, do you know, or?
Rarely anybody out there using that.
That's what I thought.
We had a user group a few years ago that was pretty heavy into it, and now it's
right? It depends on whether the water table's up or, you know, the river's up flooding it, I guess, so. And can that be determined, I mean, can we close that, if there was super nice weather? I don't know what it's,
The application DNR asks for dates.
okay,
So I need to give them a date, and then that, like I said, relates to
I'm
what
entire
Jenny was
season.
bringing out, you know, with the park. If you're gonna close the park, do you consider a shorter date? Or you don't have to
Not
close
for
the
the whole
park, that's,
thing.
that's up to you guys. You guys can close your park anytime you would like to. But if the season is September 16th to the end of the year, and you have Mayflower Park, you could, you know, leave it open, and just knowing that there's gonna be 2 user groups potentially, you know, in that park for a period of time, or you could close your park at your discretion. That DNR doesn't have any say of that. That's up to you guys. They just wanna know what season you want to have.
I think if you're even considering 3 and 4 or 5 deer, there's no reason to shorten the season. So
I'm good with full season. And we'll see what the final comes out to be, but I don't know if, you know, and I don't, I'm trying to read your mind or what Scott, you know, feels on this thing, you know, and that's hard to do for a council when we haven't been in those discussions, so, but you know what the council's intent is full season.
Yep, and we can certainly do that, and that's fine. And we'll, like I said, the next step of this, we'll get the application filed, get that going to DNR, and then wait for, you know, the response on that, and then we'll work on those, you know, program rules. Everything that was in your packet for Blue Earth, we'll take a look at that, and we'll, you know, use that as template, but we'll form those rules and have some recommendations for you on age of hunter, what to do with, you know, entrails or, you know, those kinds of things that we can then, you know, discuss as a group, so. But we'll get those together for you, and we have some time, and we'll get that coming, so. But I just needed some direction on a few of these things and good discussion on, you know, these other points, so.
Okay, so date, full season is from what I'm hearing. Any additional liability insurance, that's being covered by Steve and League of Minnesota Cities. I do hope it's noted, or you'll have paper trail or whatever that we ask them, so. And then Mayflower to be closed, that's been now discussed.
Yep, that's your discussion.
Okay. The only other comment, and I'll ask for final comments, mine would be is, I hope you get out there and walk the river along, like Jenny says, where most of the issues are. I do think that there's a lot of opportunity as you walk towards the back. It's a long ways off of the county road, that there'll be lots of opportunities and close to the river. There's a hedge that runs along that whole river bank, if they're set that. And some of that is pretty directional towards there's a huge bank on the other side of the river. Generally, there's nobody over there. Now, fishermen in the fall, yes, there are people that go back there and fish. I'm one of them. So I understand those concerns, but, so I hope you have a nice walk when you look at that, okay? And Scott can't take his pheasant gun with him when he walks back there. There's plenty of them back there too, okay. Okay, are we done? Any final comments from the council on deer?
I have one. Dennis, during the archery season, can you use crossbow, or do you have to, is there a special? And that's different, that,
Or if you are over 60 years of age, crossbows are legal during the archery season.
so we'd have to do something similar, I sure.
They have to follow the same state.
Same state rules as far as that.
By the regular DNR requirements.
Okay, Marv?
just a question, Steve. Have you seen where any of these other towns have provided some type of a hunting shelter? Or are hunters going to be allowed to bring that kind of thing in?
I think what we're envisioning is people can bring their own stand in. You know, for us to go out and construct a bunch of stands, probably not, you know, real cost effective, and they, of course, won't be in the right spot. And then a tree will fall over on it, and then there's liability that we would have for the stand. So we would want people to bring their own stands so they can place them where they would like them. And but typically, the cities that have that and people that do bring those, they can put them up. They do have to tag them with their name on them, and they can then stay for the season. So if you've had it September 16th to December 31st, that's the season that they can leave that stand there, just so you're aware of that.
Or until they shoot their 2 deer.
Not if they're gonna hotbed it and have somebody else stand in it. Rotate with someone else. I can come
No,
stand in
right.
your stand.
Sure, you can. Okay. You probably won't get a license, though.
Probably not.
No,
I won't win the lottery.
yeah. Okay, is that it? Okay, we're done with that one. Whoop, I'm sorry.
Do you have to know a number for your application that you're doing, or that gets decided afterwards?
No, that's up to us to do through our program, number of hunters. It's gonna be based on what the area that we've got and what we feel can safely, hunt that area, so.
Okay, and for the record, I only seen 17 deer from in city limits on my way here to this evening. It's down from last meeting. One was within the road right away. So, okay. We are to council comments. Let's start with Scott.
With the spring season coming to start with us now, I've noticed myself that there's a few yards out there could use a little bit of help. And with the May cleanup coming up, if you need some help, I guess ask your neighbors or help your neighbors pick up some of their stuff or their Christmas ornaments. It's just one way to help each other out and be neighborly like. That's about all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. And talking about the May pickup event, right? Jenny, you want to go next?
Yes.
And you were gone last meeting, so you probably have a long list.
Yes,
right?
no, I don't.
Okay.
I do, though, after saying that, I had forgot that I need to get back to the radio about getting on there to talk about cleanup day. So I will plan to do that and get more information out on that. So no, the only things I had were just with hopefully warmer weather in the forecast coming next week. I know just with these few days that we did have a warmer weather, I noticed a lot more kids out, on bikes, on skateboards, out and about. So just, be mindful. We only have, I think, 40 some days left of school. So as you're driving around the community, be watchful of our younger people that are out and about and enjoying and older people too, enjoying the warm up of our weather. And then happy Easter to everyone this weekend.
Thank you, Jenny. Jim? Marv? Dennis? Steve?
No, sir.
Well, I have always a couple things, but, and I'm not blaming this on the street department, but watch out for potholes. We got one in Mankato. And I was out of town, my son had my vehicle, and hit a pothole, ruined the rim, the whole thing, just driving to work in Mankato. And he thought he blew the car up because the steam from the water splashed up and the car was steaming and everything, And, but, be careful. Some of these, and I get it. There's a lot of work to do. It's not only our city. I was out of town and called somebody to come and tow the truck, and I said, I'm not in town, but I hear you got a few potholes up here, and they said it's ridiculous, so it's been a banner year for all the communities in the area and the highway department, so just be cautious, slow down. There's some roads even going to school. I think we got them a little bit better than they were, but we got to be careful there till they can get the right product in there. that'll hold and do the job. So be cautious and watch out, because when the weather's right, the city crews, I'm sure, will be out there. Isn't that right? So I'm getting the big nod from the back of the room. So folks, watch out for the potholes for a few more weeks here, and city crews will be out and get to them as soon as they can. So with that, that's it for this evening. Thank you, and we're adjourned by unanimous consent.